Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we have a This Year in Perfume, and believe it or not, we are all the way to the year 2011. The years keep ticking by. We're going to be caught up to the present in no time, and this is a monster video. It took me forever to get ready. There's 28 fragrances in my collection, full bottles, and one sample that I have reviewed. The deal is if there's a sample and I've reviewed it, I'm including it in the countdown since there is a full review on the channel. One sample, 27 full bottles from 2011 from my collection. Just a monster year for whatever reason. And a ton of honorary mentions. So if I have samples, I plan on talking about them on the channel here in a little bit, but I have not done full reviews. What I've been doing is just putting them as honorary mentions. So these are fragrances that you can expect to hear about on the channel coming up very soon. So my life has just been absolutely crazy lately, and yet I still find time to do these because I love doing the videos for you guys. I'm going to do them as long as I possibly can. I think it's a honor to get to do this type of content for you guys. There's a hole in the YouTube, I feel like, algorithm, what is coming to you on fragrances. And I love kind of filling that hole with something unique and different. And even some of the small stuff, you know, I don't usually put like words and stuff on my thumbnails, but someone sent me a screenshot of all these other YouTubers and then my screenshot, and it's just completely different. I'm not putting like red and yellow and green letters and, you know, weird thumbnails where they're like, you know what I'm talking about. So it just kind of, I think it still stands out. But I love doing these videos for you all is the point. So let's get started because this is going to be a long video. This will be vintage Ram tonight really, because it's already almost 10 o'clock here at night. So before we get into the honorary mentions and my scent of the day, which I plan on hopefully reviewing very soon because it is a discontinued gem, let's put ourselves sort of in the frame of mind of 2011. So what was happening? So there were some actually pretty big events in 2011 that really take me back to that time. Probably the biggest and most important for the world was the Fukushima nuclear disaster in Japan that the underwater earthquake ended up causing. And I believe it was a GE nuclear power plant, if I'm not mistaken, but basically had a meltdown straight into the ocean and all kind of crazy stuff they were trying to do. One of the most dangerous nuclear disasters since Chernobyl. So that really takes me back to those days, just remembering that. And then, of course, the Arab Spring and everything that was going on. I believe the beginning started in 2010 at the end of the year when apparently a street vendor in Tunisia set himself on fire. Now, there is a, you know, form of protest that you do not see except for the most dedicated, set yourself on fire. And then it spilled over. 2011 is really when the Arab Spring spread, if you will, to Egypt and Yemen and Syria and Libya and Bahrain and on and on and on, right? So you guys probably remember that. Also, speaking of protests, the Occupy Wall Street protest was happening in 2011. And so I remember the Occupy movement sort of gathering ground. And what else happened in 2011? Oh, the big one is Osama bin Laden was killed. And then they, of course, secretly threw his body overboard into the ocean so no one would know, but which I always found strange. All right, he's dead. Goodbye. He's now thrown into the ocean. Sorry, no one can look into it, but I'm sure he actually is dead. But it also was strange. He was living right next to kind of like the base camp in Pakistan where I think it was a CIA camp or I don't know what, maybe a military installment. He was like right next door, which is just extremely, extremely strange no matter how you slice it. But anyways, that's just kind of a rundown, I guess, of what was going on in 2011, if you will. So that gets you in the frame of mind news-wise. So here's some songs. Rolling in the Deep by Adele was in 2011, and she has a hell of a voice. Move Like Jagger from Maroon 5, and what else? Firework, Katy Perry, Grenade, Bruno Mars, Paradise, Coldplay, Pumped Up Kicks, Foster the People. That's actually a pretty good band. Foster the People's not too shabby. Black Eyed Peas, Just Can't Get Enough. On the Floor, Jennifer Lopez. All of the Lights, Kanye West. Headlines by Drake. Anyways, you get the idea, right? The Wanted, Glad You Came. If you have some songs or bands that should be shouted out for 2011 music, leave it in the comments. And then the movies. So here's the top 10 according to Rolling Stones. We've got Warhorse, The Help, Harry Potter, and Deathly Hallows Part 2. The Tree of Life, Margin Call, which is actually a good movie. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, I've never seen that one. Hugo, I don't think I've ever seen that. Midnight in Paris. Moneyball, that was a good movie. And the Descendants, which I don't think I've seen. The Descendants. The Artist, I don't believe I've seen. And Drive. Drive was actually a good movie. I do remember Drive. That brings me back to 2011. So that puts us in the frame of mind of what was going on in 2011. So let's talk perfume. First scent of the day, which I know this fragrance pretty well, and I think it's a good designer. I think this is a sort of idea of what designers should be. It was released in the year 2004. This is my scent of the day. It is Escada Magnetism. So sorry about the fingerprints, but it is a fingerprint magnet. But look at the color of the bottle and the juice. You can kind of see the juice level is right about here. And actually, I'm going to do a fresh spray just because. And the atomizer on this is fantastic. But I really like this fragrance because it's probably my second favorite Escada because it does this very strange, boozy, I've heard it referred to as inky. So imagine like this purple ink, boozy, sort of grape smelling, very resinous and ambery. There's a lot of Tolu balsam, ambers, woods, a little bit of saffron. And it dries down to a sort of sweetened designer leather. It is a designer, okay? So if you've been sniffing nothing but niche perfumes the last 10 years, you may smell this and go, eh. But for a designer, for what it is, I mean, this was a $20 or $30 fragrance at discounters for the longest time. You could find it in the clearance racks. No one wanted it. Now people are trying to sell it for $300 online, which, you know, good luck, right? But is it worth that? No. But if you find a good deal on it, under $100 is what I think is fair. This is a good designer, and I will review this. It is unfortunately discontinued. It was last marketed by Scannon. Okay, so let's talk about some of the decants, which I don't have full bottles of, but will be getting a full review on the channel here very soon. Something to look forward to. So some fragrances from the year 2011, which plan on getting some play on Channel Ram, probably sometime this year or next. So the first one is Santal 33 by Le Labo. Everyone's favorite Le Labo, the pickled sandalwood. Woody, spicy, sharp, harsh, scratchy, huge throw. You know, if you've ever smelled real sandalwood, most real sandalwood is somewhat soft. Mysore is extremely milky and creamy and sometimes floral and soft. But if you've smelled some of these synthetic sandalwood fragrances like Santal 33, this is the kind of stuff that people hate because it like scratches the inside of your nose. It is it's a fragrance everyone, if you've ever been to a downtown area of probably any major American or Canadian city, you've smelled Santal 33. It is just ubiquitous. I mean, in the big city, downtown areas, I smell this everywhere. Even today in 2024, Santal 33 is like the hipster smell, if you will. I have a love-hate relationship with this. And it's funny because someone left a comment and said, love and hate are two sides of the same coin, Ramsey. If you hate it, you almost secretly love it kind of thing. It garners an emotion in you. And it does. Some of the parts of it I like. I like how just I don't give a fuck attitude Santal 33 has. On the other side, as a perfume lover, it's so it's like it's corrupt. You know what I mean? It has this it's like the code has been corrupted, but they don't care. They just 10 sprays of Santal 33. They go out in the downtown areas and, you know, other than smelling like a hipster, I actually kind of like that fragrance. Begrudgingly, I like it. I would never buy a bottle. That decant's more than enough, but I like it. Okay, we got to go fast with some of these. If you've been following my channel, one that came just a couple days ago, I did a video, an unboxing video from David. Very, very kindly sent me some fragrances, which I can't wait to get into, and also some cigars, which I've been enjoying these last 2 days with how crazy my life has been. But this is called Kerosene Copper Skies from 2011. It's kind of a spicy, resinous, smoky honeycomb fragrance, believe it or not. Interesting take. I can't wait to get to know that. Actually, that is a brand that I have not talked about on the channel at all. I do have a couple decants now, so maybe I'll start doing a couple just early impression videos. And then a DS Durga fragrance called Italian Citrus, which I think you might have heard me talk a little bit about if you watched my DS Durga live stream, but this has not been given an individual review. Italian Citrus is a sort of green, fresh, it's slightly spicy. It's a little bit smoky because of the frankincense, violet leaf, and ambrette. But for a citrus fresh fragrance, very interesting. DS and Durga is a good, I think they're a good niche house. And then one that David sent me in that haul that I've never smelled. I still have not smelled this. It's called Mississippi Medicine from 2011. And this is supposed to be a smoky, woody. And I can, just from the atomizer, I can feel that dark smokiness. Frankincense, cypress root, European black pine, aldehydes, birch tar. Sounds like my kind of fragrance. I'm very excited about Mississippi Medicine. Okay, I couldn't find all the decants. Again, finding decants is like the bane of my existence because I have so many now. And when I try to find a particular one that I know I have, sometimes it's just going to have to show up when it shows up kind of thing. But the one that, a couple of them that I wanted to show that I couldn't find, one is called Patchouli Imperial by Dior. Rich Mitch gave me a sample of Patchouli Imperial from his huge, like 500 ml bottle. And I've smelled it. It's a really good patchouli. I'll try to review it if I can ever find the damn sample. The other one is Treillis by Nila Vermeer Creations. Parfumo says I have a decant floating around, which means I do, but I have no clue where it is. But Treillis is on the list, and that house in general is on the list to be discussed. And then one I was able to find is Roja's Oud, just the original Oud, or Oud as he writes it, but 2011 release, of course, or it wouldn't be on the video. This is a very strange oriental style, floral oriental oud fragrance with ambergris and a huge saffron note in the base. It's got like rhubarb fruitiness. It's got a ton of cashmere wood, that cashmeran dry down that you kind of smell in some of his other oud fragrances, like H Black Tear, if you've ever smelled that. There's a little bit of that in here as well. It's okay. You know, I would never buy a bottle, but it's okay. I'll review it one of these days. And then one I couldn't find was Idole de Luban, the Oud Parfum. I know I've showed the vintage Eau de Toilette on the channel many times before. I think I have a Lucky Scent sample somewhere of the Eau de Parfum. Maybe I'll do a comparison video if I can ever find that sample. And a Carner fragrance, Carner Barcelona, which is a very underrated house. I think if you're on a budget and you just want good, functional, but also very interesting perfume that can be worn in a lot of different situations, Carner kind of wears like a designer on one hand, but like a niche on the other. And Carner Queers is the fragrance. Again, Rich Mitch sent me a little sample from his bottle, and it's somewhere, probably somewhere up here. I couldn't find it. But I have smelled that one. That's a very interesting oud, woody, leathery, spicy type of creation. I think it's very good. I think it's full bottle worthy, actually, but you can't own everything. But yes, can't wait to review that one on the channel. And then we've got this little bad boy coming up. I've been sitting on this sample set for a while. I forgot who sent me this, so whoever my perfume god person is for this, thank you very much. But one of them is a fragrance called, by the house of Olfactive Studios, called Chambre Noir. And Chambre Noir got a little bit of hype on YouTube when it came out in 2011. This might be the most hyped from the brand still, because it's kind of this leathery, spicy, fruity. There's plum and papyrus, frankincense and violet, jasmine and leather, patchouli, sandalwood, vanilla, and musk, pink pepper in the top. But it's kind of this leathery, fruity, smoky thing. I have had a chance to wear this to bed once, and I really, really liked it. So I need to give it a full wear and see if the feeling sticks all the way through. Because sometimes when you wear something to bed, you'll get a couple hours of it, and then you kind of fall asleep. But I need to give this a full wear and just see how it reacts on the skin. But first impressions were somewhat positive. Dorothy P.O. is the perfumer of Chambre Noir. And then we had Honor Woman and Honor Man, which Honor Woman is way too white floral for me. Honor Man is very interesting. It's kind of a heavy black pepper fragrance. It's pepper and this very interesting Madagascan elemi. And elemi is like a fresher take on frankincense, right? So it's like a lemony frankincense. And I don't have a bottle, but I have like 50 mils of samples. I have so many samples that somebody gave me from Honor Man from Amouage. That is on the to review list this year. And then one that I've been wondering if when I'm going to get up the intestinal fortitude to do this review. But if you've ever smelled it, you probably know what I'm going to say. This is Parfum de Marly's Godolphin. And Godolphin is Parfum de Marly's take on Tuscan leather is really just what it is. It smells so close to Tuscan leather. Maybe a slightly sweeter, slightly fruitier version. But if you own like Jacaues or C by Clive Christian or anything like that, you're gonna get this DNA instantly. And so Godolphin is, I mean, that may be the review right there. It smells like Tuscan leather. That's it. See ya. But it's on the 2 review list. And finally, in Hermes, and this is a Jean-Claude Elena from 2011 called Un Jardin sur le Toit. And Un Jardin sur le Toit, the roof of the Hermes, the garden collection, basically. There's a very famous garden on the roof of the Hermes building in Paris. And this is actually a very interesting fresh green fragrance with multiple apple and pear notes. So there's this, there's this fruity apple pear combo that's very interesting because it's apple and it's pear, but it's also apple wood and pear tree wood. So Jean-Claude Elena used both along with this wild grass note. So it's literally supposed to be like smelling the fruit and the tree while sitting in the grass. And you know what? It does exactly that. For what it does, it's very, very good. Great in the heat. So maybe when summertime rolls around, I'll make this a priority. Okay, so that is the 2011 samples that are coming up to be reviewed on the channel. So let's do the countdown. We got a long way to go. So number 28, if you will. Number 28 is a Calvin Klein fragrance, and it is a 200 ml bottle that I think you can still buy these 200 ml bottles for under 20 bucks. Something crazy. Price per ml. Like if you're someone that just wants a large amount of fragrance at a great price and you just want to have something smell slightly modern, I mean, you're not going to get 200 mils for 20 bucks very often. And so this is CK1 Shock, especially with perfume prices nowadays being what they are. CK1 Shock is sort of a tobacco, sweet, peppery, but also there's a lavender note in here. It does smell very, very designer. They say there's ambrine in here, which is sort of a ambergris type material. Ambrine is like the main ingredient in ambergris. It's supposed to be odorless, but the purpose is to help it affix to your skin. Cashmeran, patchouli, and some white musk. But yes, CK1 Shock. I mean, I hate putting it last, but it has to be last. But value for money, pound for pound, price per mil, this might hold its own. You might be surprised. I'd give this a chance if you're kind of on a budget and you just want a lot of perfume for a great price. Sometimes you'll see those 200 ml bottles at 20 bucks or so at discounters. All right, so number 27 is a vintage Mancera. Look, it's not the magnetic cap anymore. Oh no, this is the vintage screw cap. So if anyone wants to pay me $1,000 for the vintage screw cap, this is for sale. Mancera's Cedrat Boise. And this is basically Mancera's take on Aventus is the easiest way to describe it. Woody, citrusy. It's got that blackcurrant note you find in Aventus, but there's something strange about the spices and the lemon in the top for me. It's very scratchy, as you'll find a lot of Manceras are. It does project and last forever, but it projects and lasts forever like this lemony toilet water thing that I just don't like. It does dry down to maybe a little bit more leathery than Aventus. I don't know. I would say I'll try to wear it more, but I hate wearing the damn thing. But one of these days, I'm going to wear it and get the damn review out of the way. I've been threatening that forever, but Cedrat Boise at number 27. Number 26 is a flanker, and it's actually a flanker of a fragrance that is going to get a Vintage Hall of Fame review, which is One Man Show by the house of Jacques Bogart. And so this is One Man Show Gold Edition from 2011. Of course, or it wouldn't be on the video. And I was threatening to spray this. I almost grabbed a blotter and was going to spray it, but then I remembered my room would stink of this scent for the next year, potentially. And so One Man Show Gold Edition, some people refer to it as like a Oriental style of One Man Show, like a sweet Oriental style of One Man Show. Like a modern niche, or like a modernized version of vintage one-man show. I've heard some people compare this to Ted Lapidus Pour Homme. Sorry, Lapidus Pour Homme. I don't really see the comparison there as much, but there's something in here that bothers me. This is why this one's a little bit lower. There's just something in One Man Show Gold Edition that feels designer. You know, it feels like they tried to take a little bit of the old school, the 80s, and they tried to take a little bit of the modern, you know, synthetic notes, and maybe even a little bit of a blue fragrance hiding underneath. Maybe just a little bit of ambroxan underneath, and mashed it together. And sometimes some people say it works for them. Sometimes if I spray this, I'm like, man, this is just way too much. But give it a try. I mean, if you're a fan of vintage fragrances that are trying to be modernized, maybe you'll like that. I struggle with it a little bit, especially because it is very sweet. But yes, One Man Show Gold Edition at number 26. Number 25 is the sample. It's the sample that I reviewed from the house of Arquiste. And this is called Flor y Canto. Flor y Canto. And I'll tell you what, Arquiste is a house that I would like to do more reviews on. I've reviewed this, and I've reviewed Non-Bon, if memory serves. I would love to review more from the house because I think it's a quality house. Now, this fragrance is not for me. If you go watch my review, I respect this. I respect the hell out of this fragrance, and I respect Rodrigo Flores Roux for making it. But this kind of floral sweet thing, frangipani and tuberose and magnolia and different types of frangipani, red frangipani. There is that very interesting marigold note that can smell very hay-like, and marigold can be used in you know, gardens to kind of keep bugs and stuff away. They don't like the smell of it, believe it or not. If you're around marigold, there's there is a, you know, tail that mosquitoes will stay away from you. It's like a natural mosquito repellent. They do not like the smell of marigold. But Mexican acacia is a big part of this one, and copal resins, Mexican vanilla, and benzoin. There's a very cool backstory to each one of the Arquiste fragrances. So Flor y Canto, not my thing, but I can respect it. That's why it's coming in at number 20. Number 25. Number 24 is actually a discontinued fragrance that I think a lot of people would put much higher, especially vintage hunters like I am. This is from the house of Jean-Paul Gaultier, and it's called Coco Rico. And the reason I'm putting Coco Rico here is because this has a heavy sort of Lidge DNA about it. You know, so if you like L'Instant de Guerlain, you'll like Coco Rico. It's very much inspired by Lidge, and the problem is now you've got to pay whatever it is to I don't know what people are selling these for. Probably trying to get hundreds for it. But as a designer, you know, it's sort of Lidge with a little bit of a fig leaf note on the top. It's created by two amazing perfumers, Olivier Cresp and Annick Menardo. But for me, every time I've kind of forced myself to wear this, I always think, why not just wear Lidge? You know, Lidge does it for me. It scratches the itch much better. But if you're into that DNA, if you like that patchouli, cacao, cedarwood, vetiver feel, this is definitely one to maybe put on the list. And if you're a collector, it's a cool bottle. And if you look right here, it kind of has the Jean-Paul Gaultier, you know, if you look at it from the side, it's got that Le Male bottle profile. So cool bottle. Very cool bottle. So that is Coco Rico at number 24. Number 23 is a Lalique, and it's a very fresh Lalique, actually. Well, it's a fresh oud fragrance is what it is. You have to remember, 2011 was like oud craze for many brands, and Lalique caught the oud bug, and they put out Hommage Alom, which is still in production, and actually is a fresh take on oud. Very well done. It has a very interesting violet leaf from memory, like a violet/violet leaf. There might be both notes listed in here, actually, along with pimento leaf, saffron. So it's like a saffron peppery oud, but the oud is not super funky at all. It's actually a cleaner take on oud. Very spicy and woody. I got this with a shower wash for like 20-something bucks. I can't remember. Something very, very cheap. And musk. This is made by Christine Nagel and Mathilde Bijou. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. But yeah, if you're a fan of fresher oud fragrances, don't overlook Lalique's Hommage Alom. At number 20, Number 22 is actually a fragrance from the house of Montana. And this is probably about as modern as I'll get with the house of Montana. But if you're a fan of Nathalie Laursen's work, okay, so if you like things like Encre Noir, okay, if you like things like Bentley for Men Intense, if you like the kind of designers that Nathalie Laursen created, this one should be the top of your list to smell if you have not sniffed this. And I think you can still get 100 mils for like 30 bucks at discounters or something. This is called Montana's Graphite. You know what? Let me grab some blotters. I should have been prepared here, but I am in the mood to spray some of these, so let's see how old Graphite holds up. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've sprayed you, Graphite. So, I mean, instantly you're hit with this sort of Nathalie Laursen, like, you know, signature. She loves using black pepper, and you're instantly hit with this woody black pepper that if you've smelled her work, you're gonna get that profile, let's say, okay? There are leathery notes in here, there's woody notes in here, there's notes that feel slightly smoky, a little bit of the frankincense. The Gaiac wood comes across as barbecue-like smoky wood. There is a note of ambergris listed. It's probably ambroxan at this kind of price point, of course, but you know, and it dries down to something woody and resinous. The benzoin in here makes it feel slightly resinous. The violet leaf can feel slightly green. I mean, for 30 bucks, you're not going to do much better than this nowadays. I can't, you know, if you're on a budget, I have mentioned some amazing budget fragrances so far. CK1 Shock, Lalique Alom, and Graphite in particular, you can probably still find for very, very cheap. So yes, Graphite, we'll get a full review on the channel one of these days. God willing, I'm going to try to do this as long as I can. So that is Graphite by the House of Montana at number 22. Number 21 is a discontinued fragrance that you will have to try to hunt down. It's probably going to be a little bit more expensive, but it is a designer, and people are not going crazy for it. It's from the house of Lanvin, and this is called Avant Guard. Now, Avant Guard was made by Shyamala Maisondu, who was married to, I forget who the Mr. Maisondu she was married to, okay? But she was actually the perfumer who went with Gabe Oppenheim to go meet Pierre Bourdon when he did his book, The Ghost Perfumer. And so she created this in 2011. And this is one of the fragrances that Jeremy Fragrance hyped up early on when he started his YouTube channel. A lot of the fragrances that he hyped up, I hate, okay? Despise. This and Jacques Fat Pour L'Homme were the two he hyped up that I actually like. And this is kind of a fragrance that some people say that the spices in the top, the black pepper, pink pepper, cardamom, juniper, bergamot, reminds them of La Nuit de l'Homme, okay? But, just imagine taking La Nuit de l'Homme and kind of blending it with a little bit of a tobacco and beeswax and honeyed. And so maybe there's a little bit of Amen's Pure Havane in here. Imagine Pure Havane meets La Nuit de l'Homme, okay? In a Lanvin presentation. A little bit of amber. There's a little bit of a note called Georgie wood in the base, which is a Givaudan scent molecule that's supposed to have a clean and woody smell. So the dry down is tobacco, clean, woody, benzoin, vetiver, amber, cedar. And of course, there's a little bit of lavender. The lavender is very designer-like in here. But even the sweetness in here is not so much that it completely puts me off. It is sweet, but for winter or something like that, you know, I can stand this sort of designer profile every now and then. just like I'm wearing the designer Escada Magnetism for men today. There's a sweetness to many of these designers, but probably one of the better Jeremy fragrance recommendations, in my personal opinion. So that is Avant Guard by the house of Lanvin at number 21. Number 20 is a hard-to-find niche fragrance, which I am still coming to terms with, and maybe I'll never come to terms with it. I don't know. But one of these days, I'm going to just review the damn thing. And it is from the house of Histoire de Parfum, and it is called Rare Petroleum. So I don't know why I took the cap off first, but there it is with the cap. Rare Petroleum. And Rare Petroleum was a challenge for me from the get-go. There was something about this that I kind of struggled with. There's almost like this weird oud aldehydic fish vibe in the top for me. It's like a little bit of a fish market in the top with this very funky oud. You know, and you know what? Right there, that's that first smell. I did get a little bit of a petroleum-like vibe, a little bit of a petrol vibe, if you will. And I think the more I forced myself to spray this and wear it, the more I'm enjoying it, is the thing. So this is one where when I first got it, I was like, oh shit, I'm selling this. I can't take this. It's not for me. But the more I've worn it, actually, the more my nose is kind of adjusted, and I've that animalic bit doesn't put me off as much, okay? The other thing I will say is that this is one you really have to test on skin, because when I spray this on paper, I'm like, oh man, this is, I really, really like this. But sometimes when I spray it on skin, that fishy fish market smell tends to come out more. Lots of different types of funky oud in here, but I like it. It has definitely grown on me, and I'm glad. This is one of the reasons I never sell bottles, because, you know, your nose, your take, the way you view a fragrance changes as time goes on. Especially if you have a big collection. Sometimes you won't spray something for months, you know, and you'll come back to it, and by then things will change. But yes, Rare Petroleum by the house of Histoire de Parfum comes in at number 20. Okay, number 19. Number 19 is a little bit of a cheat, but I had to include it because this is technically the 2011 version. There was a 1989 version when it first came out. I forget who the original perfumer was, but it was an all-star perfumer. And this is called Boucheron pour Homme. Now, I actually have the Oud Parfum. I'd like to try the Eau de Toilette as well, but this is kind of a citrus-heavy fragrance. And bergamot, basil, it's green, you know, it has patchouli and sandalwood in the dry down. Very classy. You know, it's the type of fragrance that that you would expect to come out in the 70s and 80s. It is very citrusy and very fresh, very, very gentlemanly, you know. Great for summer. You can just kind of spray away, in my opinion, with these type of fragrances. But yes, Boucheron pour Homme, it's grown on me. I'd like to try the OG. You know, I heard the OG has more, of course, oak moss in it, and more of those vintage masculine notes that you would kind of come to expect. I think it's supposed to be earthier. The oak moss is supposed to add like this earthy scratchiness to a texture, let's say, that is kind of missing in the 2011 version. But again, at discounters, that's not bad in my opinion. And that's at number 19, Boucheron pour Homme Eau de Parfum. Okay, number 18 is a Carner fragrance. We talked about Carner Queers previously. This is the Carner I have a full bottle of. This is Carner D600. And Carner D600 is Carner's take on Dior Homme. Okay? So Dior Homme by 2011 was a huge hit, obviously. And Carner wanted to capitalize on it. And so they put out Carner D600, which, in my opinion, is a hell of a fragrance. And I would love to put this higher on the list, to be honest with you. But we're coming up on some bangers. There are some serious fragrances in 2011. So, I mean, you know, it is... I mean, this is, Carner is a very underrated house to me. I think Carner deserves much more love than it gets in the community. And I think it's price point. I think if they bumped their price up by $100 a bottle more, let's say, and all of a sudden everyone thought they were like super luxurious, you'd have people start raving about them all of a sudden. But since they come across as, reasonably priced, let's say, I think people think about the smells as just, you know, they don't think they're extraordinary or anything because the prices aren't extraordinary. But you get a lot for your money with Carner, in my opinion. Spicy, powdery. The spices are coming through, the Guatemalan cardamom, but that Italian iris in here with the, I think this is woodier, in my opinion, and the dry down than Dior Homme. You know, the Virginia cedar, the vetiver makes it slightly woodier. But you still get the powderiness of a good iris note. I like D600. I think it deserves more love. I'll review it one of these days. Okay, so speaking of earlier, we discussed Coco Rico, which was a fragrance that really reminds of Lidge by the House of Guerlain. This is the niche version of that, okay? So this is from the house of Nasomatto, and it's called Pardon. And Pardon is sort of a chocolatey, patchouli, but with magnolia in this. It's supposed to be unsweetened chocolate is the note, with tonka bean, cinnamon, and a sandalwood base with supposedly some oud in here, okay? But it smells a lot like Lidge, and it has the same problem Coco Rico has. I think I prefer Pardon to Coco Rico, personally, because of the little bit of, the little extra touch that, Alessandro Galtieri, the perfumer, adds to his fragrances. And some people find them a little bit too synthetic and too chemical smelling, but I don't. I think that his fragrances are, I think that they are unique enough to add. They add a little something extra. And with this one, it says the fragrance aims to evoke the persuasion of utmost masculine elegance and charm, which I would not describe this fragrance that way because of the extra scratchy oud smelling notes, but I could see that, you know. I think Lidge is a very elegant and charming fragrance, but I just demand a little something more, you know. That is not my favorite. I'd much rather wear Black Afghano or one of his crazier fragrances from his other house, Orto Parisi. Okay, so that was Nasomatto's Pardon at number 17. Number 16 is a fragrance by the great Annick Menardo. And Annick Menardo deserves much more love in the community. I mean, she gets a lot of love, but I love Annick Menardo's work. And this is one such example of something simple that, well, maybe not simple, but a designer that got overlooked and was in the trash bin for the longest time. Now that it's discontinued again, more people are taking note. From 2011, this is DSquared Potion. This is an amazing fragrance. There's little hints of Royal Oud in here, which I absolutely love Royal Oud. And they came out the same year, by the way. And it must be the Angelica, because they both have Angelica, and they both have patchouli, if I remember correctly. But this doesn't have oud, but it does have this cashmere wood, which can sometimes come across like a bounce dryer sheet if you use too much. But she did not use too much in here. It comes across as very spicy and woody, oriental and resinous. It's ambery and musky and peppery. The cinnamon is like a hug. It's an amazing fragrance, especially for a designer. You know, I've talked about some really good designers today. And these designer fragrances, even in 2011, I feel like the designers were so much higher quality than the designers we get today. It's crazy. And for the price. I mean, now a designer would come out with something like this, and let's say they may get the quality right, but they'll price it at like $150. You know, this was like 20 or 30 bucks, or whatever it was, 40 or 50 bucks, but it wasn't crazy priced back in the day. So DSquared Potion comes in at number 16. Number 15 is my favorite Bond number 9 fragrance. And I actually have 50 mils of this, which is it's the only Bond number 9 I have in 50 mils. The other ones I have in 100 mils, and I don't like them as much as this one. But this is from perfumer Laurent Le Guernec, and this is called New York Oud. So, and you can see I put a little bit of a dent in there. You can see the juice line through the bond number 9 circles, if you will. But this is red rose, oud, patchouli, honey, musk, orange zest, saffron, vetiver, iris, and the secret note in New York Oud is red plum. That red plum note in here is brilliant. Actually, you know what? I'm going to spray it because I have the urge. New York Oud. So, I obviously am not a fan of the house, as you all know. I don't like the practices of the house. I don't like some of the stuff they've done to other YouTubers. But this is good stuff. I like this. I like New York Oud. Very, you know, there's something a little scratchy on the nose without smelling cheap, if that makes sense. When you first spray, it's woody, you get the rose, you get that red plum almost instantly. A lot of saffron, which I think helps with that chemical scratchiness. Saffron is probably what's giving it that, not necessarily the oud. But it smells like you're smelling an oud accord. You know, they've done a good job with this. And then, of course, there's a honey patchouli, and I love honey and patchouli in fragrances. But it doesn't smell like a throwback to the 70s or anything like that. It smells very modern because of that oud accord. Just a little bit of orange zest for a little bit of that bitteriness of the rind. But that red plum, red rose, and oud with the heavy chemical smelling saffron is beautiful. I really like that. My favorite bond number 9, which I'll review one of these days. Okay, next on the list we have, and by the way, that was at number 15. Number 14 is a Thierry Mugler, a discontinued, one of my favorite from the flankers of the Amen line. This is called A Taste of Fragrance, and this is a flanker, so I can show you the back. Sorry, this is a tester, so I can show you the back. Sorry, I've been working all day. It's 10:30 at night. I'm doing the video for you guys. So if I misstate a word or can't think of anything to say, bear with me. I apologize. Yes, A Taste of Fragrance. You can see right there, succulent. And pimente, brûlant, bois oriental, and épices spices. So this is basically it's known in the community as pure chili, because there's supposed to be like a red chili note in here, along with that lavender, coffee DNA of Amen, tonka bean. It is a little bit gourmand-like, spicy gourmand. But I'll tell you what, I love this stuff. And every time I wear it, you know, it just seems to impart like a memory in my brain. Like I just remember exactly what I was doing that day. It just leaves that impression on me. Gourmand, spicy. I like it, but I like the Amen DNA. So if you don't like the Amen DNA, you may not like this, but I think it's a good designer line, and sad that it's discontinued. So that is Amen, A Taste of Fragrance at number 14. Number 13 is a Jovoy, which I think is a niche house that has great value for money. Everything is premium with the house, but you're not paying Roja-like prices. This is called Psychedelique at number 13, and probably one of my favorite patchouli fragrances. I mentioned Dior's Patchouli Imperial earlier, and this came out the exact same year. Psychedelique is a chocolatey patchouli that is just an amazing patchouli to me. I love how deep and rich it smells. The chocolate in here smells... it smells like chocolate. It smells like chocolate patchouli with a hint of rose and florals and this heavy labdanum note. So it's like a heavy, this is an earthy, heavy patchouli. Spicy, resinous. There is a little bit of vanilla, which adds sweetness, which I think if the vanilla would have just been toned down a little bit more, this could have been one of the greatest patchoulis of all time. Many people consider it one of the greatest patchoulis of all time as it is. I think the vanilla sweetens it a little bit more than people think in the air. But the contrast with that earthy, spicy patchouli is amazing. So, again, that's on the to review list. So that's number 13. Now I'm getting whiffs of this Carner I'm getting whiffs of the powderiness of Carner D600 just in the blotter is all the way over there. Crazy. Yeah, those Carners need to be discussed more. Okay, next on the list we have number 12, which is a Mona d'Oreo fragrance. And I'm going to spray this because it's been a while. This is called Oud Osmanthus. Now, the original fragrance from Mona d'Oreo, the OG in the bottle that I showed, kind of the vintage Queers bottle that looks like a champagne cork, was just called Oud. So they changed it to Oud Osmanthus. And I'll tell you what, as far as Osmanthus notes go, this is pretty damn good stuff. Even in this version, I would love to smell the vintage one of these days, but even in this version, it is amazing. Yeah, fantastic Osmanthus note. Osmanthus can sometimes come across as leathery, slightly animalic, and it can almost have this peach-like smell. But in the top, you're hit with something that smells a little bit like frankincense, but not like church incense because it's sort of freshened up, because it's elemi. It's Philippine elemi is basically what it is. With Calabrian green, mandarin orange, and Paraguayan petitgrain. Okay? So you can see the ouds that are kind of showing up in 2011. 2011 was the year of ouds, and this is another one from a house that I really respect. But it's that Chinese osmanthus mixing with the Laotian oud that really makes this. Obviously, Nagarmatha is another name for Cypriol. Cypriol is very commonly used in creating that oud accord for many of these niche houses, and that's what they used here, along with ambergris. And with Mona d'Oreo, I wouldn't be surprised if it was actual ambergris. She was actually the perfumer of this. She made this, before she passed away. And so I wouldn't be surprised if there was real ambergris in here, along with Atlas Cedar, Indonesian Patchouli, and Musk. I would love to smell the vintage version of all of these, because this is a house I really rate and really respect. But yes, a good oud in osmanthus from the house of Mona d'Oreo at number 12. Number 11. Number 11 is a fragrance that I recently reviewed on the channel. It's called Opus 5. So Opus 5, this is the vintage bottle and box presentation. The newer box, or the newer bottle, basically just looks like one of these regular Amouage bottles, but colored gray and with a matte looking cap. If you get the actual ones, not a tester, they used to come with a little booklet. And this one tells you a little bit about the idea of the scent. The art of living is fragmented by the way knowledge and information travel on the internet. Opus 5 is a floral and woody fragrance inspired by the classical and modern methods of disseminating knowledge. You can go check out my full review on Opus 5, but there's something very powdery in it as well. They renamed it Wood Symphony, and that powdery woodiness might remind some people of a little bit of iris in there. There's definitely this orris concrete, orris absolute thing going on with rum, rose, oud, civet, and dry woods. Jacques Cavalier is the perfumer. So if you like the kind of work Jacques Cavalier has been doing for like Louis Vuitton, stuff like that, Bulgari's high-end line, the Le Gem line, or whatever they call it, you can check this one out. This is one that I think wears like, if this came out in like a, I don't know, like Louis Vuitton line nowadays, it would fit right in. But I think this is better than a lot of the stuff that Louis Vuitton has been putting out. So, but I just mentioned that because of Jacques Cavalier, the in-house perfumer of Louis Vuitton. Okay, so that is Opus 5 at number 11. Number 10 is a Prada. Believe it or not, it is a Prada. I love this fragrance. It is called Prada Amber Pour Homme Intense, the Intense Flanker. And the reason the Intense Flanker, well, because it's 2011, duh, but the reason I love this one so much is because they have sort of amped up the patchouli in here, is what it smells like to me. So the Intense Flanker feels like they have taken that original Amber Pour Homme, which is the myrrh and amber and vanilla and patchouli, and amped up the patchouli and made it heavier and darker, hence the black bottle. It still has that oriental, woody, powdery oriental feel of the original, but even more, just more intense. This is a true intense flanker. And I actually really like it, really enjoy it. I'm going to review it on the channel one of these days. That's number 10, Prada Amber Pour Homme Intense. Number 9, unfortunately, is a discontinued Jovoy. And this is called L'Enfant Terrible, the terrible child. And I'll tell you what, if you are a fan of probably what many perfumers would consider to be one of the greatest fragrances ever made, Féminité du Bois by Pierre Bourdon, Christopher Sheldrake, and Serge Lutton. If you're a fan of that, okay, L'Enfant Terrible is like a Féminité du Bois, sort of, you know, it's like a Féminité du Bois inspired by fragrance, but they've amped up things that you'll notice almost instantly. So, for example, L'Enfant Terrible has a little bit heavier cumin note right out of the top. There's also a note of dates in here that is very interesting. So there's this date, orange tree wood with cedar and sandalwood and a musky dry down, okay? And that sandalwood note in here is absolutely stunning. I mean, it's a stunning, beautiful sandalwood. Maybe one of my favorite sort of synthetic smelling sandalwoods is here. I mean, just brilliant. Jacques Flory is the perfumer. But if you like Féminité du Bois, I mean, I'm telling you, this is definitely worth a sniff. It's like a niche. Féminité du Bois is already a niche, but it came out in the early 90s. 1992 it was originally released. This is 2011. So just imagine kind of a twist, a niche on a niche. But I think Jovoy is just a hell of a house. I think they're a house that deserves more talk. Okay, so we are in the top 10. So that was number 9. Number 8 is a Roja. And it's one of the few Rojas left in my collection I have not reviewed on the channel. As soon as the weather turns, and actually we're getting some beautiful weather this week, so maybe I'll review it even pretty soon. But one of the few Rojas left to review that I have not reviewed yet, it is Scandal Pour Homme. Now this is the vintage paper label Oud Parfum. They now sell it in the Pure Parfum, they just call it Parfum, I guess. There was also a Parfum Cologne, which I don't like as much. But this is my favorite version of Scandal Pour Homme. And the EDP is discontinued, by the way. But it is very, very similar to, you know, just think about things like, I don't know, think about Chanel's Pour Monsieur or YSL Pour Homme, right? Think about YSL Pour Homme. I think that's a fair assessment of the past. Think about YSL Pour Homme, and just imagine Roja taking that DNA and Roja-ing it up, right? He Rojas it up. It's got that high-end luxury feel, but it feels like a spicy, old-school vintage fougere from the past, right? Very classy. Maybe one of the most like classic masculine Rojas that, you know, if you're a fan of if you're a fan of even things like this, Boucheron Pour Homme, like if this is your kind of fragrance, this will probably be your favorite Roja. For me, I like some of the other things like Diaghilev and Great Britain and Fetiche Pour Homme and Danger Pour Homme. Probably more just because of this DNA is not my favorite DNA. I don't like that citrusy heavy, that citrus heavy fougere. Really reminds me of the old school. Which I say that like it's a bad thing. I love vintage fragrances, but this style is not my favorite when it's heavy citrus. There's a lot more going on, obviously. It dries down to a very complex fougere with spices and rhubarb. Again, he loves bringing that rhubarb in 2011. Ambergris, and it does smell very high quality. And I love wearing this in the heat. So this is a warmer weather scent for me, but excuse me whilst I hydrate as we come down to the final stretch. Okay, next on the list, we have a YSL, and this is number 7, and this is YSL's M7 Oud Absolute. So the original came out in 2002, if I'm not mistaken, M7. This is the Oud Absolute version, which came out in 2011, and They took that M7 DNA, which I absolutely adore. I mean, I love it. The only thing I don't like about this is that cola vibe that you get from the opening of M7, which is one of my favorite cola openings. Along with kind of the cola opening in Enigma by Roja. I love Enigma Pour Homme, or Creation E if you're in the United States. That cola opening that you really got in M7, you don't get as much in M7 Oud Absolute. But they added some other things in here that I think were missing in M7. So there is some sort of give and take, let's say. Obviously, I prefer the original, but this is a for more modern juice, this is a very good. They did a very good job on this. So again, you can see the Oud is definitely front and center in 2011 on many of these releases, and that's number 7 on the list. Number 6 is a Serge Lutens, and you just cannot go wrong with Serge. This is a very interesting one that is waiting to be reviewed on the channel. This is called Jeu de Peau. Jeu de Peau. Very bready, yeasty, weedy. This fragrance is very bread-like. You know, it smells like you're sitting down to a good meal and drinking a beer or something. There's wheat, barley, dried fruits, you know, it smells very hoppy, bready, yeasty. There's definitely this yeast aspect to it. Christopher Sheldrake and Serge Lutens created this. And what's interesting is it's considered to be a sweet gourmand, but because it's literally made up of, you know, like many would consider wheat beer sweet in some aspect, but not in a disgustingly sweet way where Perfume puts you off. The sweetness in here doesn't bother me at all. But it's very interesting, you know, you get these little facets, you get these little fruity facets here and there, like crispy bread, just strange, you know, just a strange, I mean, this is the kind of stuff Serge does best. Serge does strange very well. Jeu de Peau, very interesting fragrance. Okay, that's at number 6. Number 5. Number 5 is a fragrance that I hunted for. I couldn't even tell you how long I looked for this fragrance. Easily years. The only reason I found it is because somebody misspelled it when they put it on eBay. They misspelled it, and that's how I was able to find it. So sometimes if you're looking for something crazy, try like an easy mistake misspelling. That's how I was able to find this. This is Rare Ambrarem, which is one of my favorite ambers, and it is an animalic amber, okay? So Ambrarem is basically this rare, this whole rare line, if you will, is good, interesting. I've reviewed a couple Histoires de Parfum on the channel, but these two I've been saving. I need to get moving on some of these reviews, but like I'm not doing enough, right? But you know, it's really something for an amber like this to have such a sort of, there is oud made up in this too as well. So I know oud was a big part of both Rare Ambrarem and Rare Petroleum, but the oud here is not near as, well, it is animalic, but it's not, I don't think it could put you off as quickly as, let's say, the Rare Petroleum might put you off, because, I mean, the Rare Petroleum is just like no holds bar, oud, oud, oud. This does some other things. So Ambrarem has a little bit of LME in the top, and I'm getting it right now mixing with the Orris Absolute. So Orris Absolute gives that irisy vibe, mixing with the LME and the oud and that animalic amber, because along with it, there's bourbon vanilla, which is one of the highest quality vanillas, and castoreum absolute. So the castoreum gives it, of course, that animalic aspect. So you do get the oud, but you also get these other moving parts. You know, the Rare Petroleum is just like oud, 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 oud. And you know, the amber in here is slightly smoky, pink pepper, and Saffron add a little bit of spiciness to it, but the animalic bits are definitely there. But if you're a fan of ambers, but you're tired of the same old, try to find a bottle of Amber Rem. It is a very interesting amber to me. Very interesting. Okay, so that is Ambra Rem at number 5. Number 4 is probably one of my favorite. Probably one of my favorite fragrances that Cécile Zarokian created, and she created it early on in her journey. She created her best stuff early. I think she peaked early, in my opinion. She created Epic Woman early, and she created this early. Two of my favorite Cécile Zarokians. This is called Private Label, and Private Label is an absolute monster. This stuff is a no-holds-barred, get the F out of my way, I'm coming through, and if you don't like it, I'm going to run your ass over. That's the type of fragrance Private Label is. It is probably, honestly, you know, it's probably one of my favorite papyrus notes. Just as an example of papyrus, a proper papyrus note. Fuck. You know, the opening is like papyrus dipped in patchouli and this inky vetiver. Okay, it's got a little bit of that inky vetiver from Encre Noire. And it has birch. And you know, the birch in the top comes off like gasoline-like a little bit of that gasoline feel. Like I was mentioning in Rare Petroleum earlier, there's a little bit of that in the top. But it's Papyrus Absolute, patchouli, leather, and it dries down leathery, okay? Smoky, leathery, labdanum, birch, and woods. I mean, just amazing. Inky vetiver, earthy, spicy. I mean, the fact you used to be able to find, I don't know if you still can, but you used to be able to find these for $180 or less for 100 mils of this type of juice with this quality, everything. I mean, everything in this is quality. You know, for me, I just, I mean, I'm a huge fan of some of these Jovoys. I need to smell some of the other ones I have not smelled. But Private Label is right up my alley, especially if you're a fan of that papery papyrus. This is like a papyrus lover's dream. Beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. Hard not to put that towards the top, but that ended up at number 4. Number 3 is a newer addition to my collection, but I have been absolutely loving it. And you know what? I think I'm going to spray some of this on skin. Let me take this watch off so my watch doesn't smell like this fragrance for the next year. But this is called, well, first, this is a house. If you don't know this is the house called BL Parfum Kunstwerk. Okay, hell of a name. But BL Parfum Kunstwerk is a house that the gentleman who founded it was kind of thinking along the same lines as Frederick Malle. Okay, that was the idea, if you will. He wanted to make a perfume house that had some of the best perfumers come and be creative and make whatever the hell they want. You know, like Malle. They didn't want to hold him back, okay? Didn't want to hold him back with briefs and sales and stuff like that. So this fragrance, the reason this is here at number 3, the reason this is the highest niche on the list, by the way. All these amazing niches, this is the highest, is because this reminds me of a vintage Jill Sander fragrance that I absolutely love called Jill Sander Man Pure. Or actually, you know what? I'm going to take that back. It's not just Man Pure. It's also any of the vintage Jill Sander Man fragrances. It could have been Man 2 or Man 3. Or the original Man, I think, was known as Man Pure, or Man Pure. Any of those vintage Jill Sander fragrances had a very specific execution of leather and castoreum, okay? And it's a vintage leather spicy chypre is basically what this is. Very complex. Tons of notes. I mean, look at the note listing. Lime, mint, bergamot, gardenia leaf, lavender, lemon, peach, petitgrain, pineapple. I almost get none of that. Maybe if I stretch my imagination, I get a little bit of mint and a little bit of fruitiness, but would I say pineapple? Is this Aventus? No. I mean, you know, it's so tough because there's so many moving parts to this, but, you know, maybe more like the pineapple in Lapidus Pour from the 80s or something. And then it goes carnation, iris, vermouth, geranium, jasmine, nutmeg, rose, rosemary, star anise, tarragon, lily of the valley, and orchid. That's the heart. And then listen to this base: leather, castoreum, cedarwood, frankincense, white musk, ambergris, labdanum, patchouli, vetiver, oak moss. Hell of a fragrance. Hell of a fragrance. And, you know, I've been hunting a bottle of Jill Sander Man Pure ever since Duncan sent me a decant like 2 or 3 years ago. It's been forever. But this just scratches that itch. Like, I don't feel like I need it as bad. I've been hunting that bottle of Jill Sander Man and Man 2 and Man 3. I can't find them. Forever. I might have found one, but it wasn't the one I wanted. It was one of the fresher ones. It was one that smelled more like, you know, Pierre Bourdon did, like Dracar Noir, sort of, Caesar's Man. I wanted the leathery ones, the leathery Jill Sander ones, which were very hard to find. But this scratches that itch and does it with amazing ingredients. This BL Parfum Kunstwerk house deserves more talk, and I can't wait to smell more from this house. What a fragrance this is. Oh, just fantastic. We'll definitely get a review from me one of these days. Okay, so I'm going to spray this one too because it's been a while since I put you on skin, and I love this fragrance. At number 2, it is from the House of Dior. It is the 2011 version of Dior Homme Intense. So again, kind of very similar to what I was saying with the 2011 version of Boucheron Pour Homme. The OG came out in 2007, but there was a remake, and they call this the 2011 version. And this is the one I have because my bottle is a 2013, 3Q04. I think that 3 beginning means it's a 2013. But obviously, I mean, Dior Homme Intense is one of the greatest designers. I mean, that lipsticky, makeup-y iris, powdery Florentine Iris Absolute with, my God, man, with Ecuadorian Ambrette and Virginia Cedar. Man, what a fragrance. I mean, these two, they are just amazing. I love Dior Homme Intense. I love Dior Homme Parfum. I love Dior Homme. I love the whole line. Everything about Dior Homme, those 3 are just some of the best designer perfumery in the last 20 years. It's just amazing. Oh, I mean, if you want to go out and you really want to, like, dial it up and turn it on and lay it on thick and that kind of thing, and, you know, you're really feeling yourself, you're going to go out and just, you know, you're going to do one of these or something. I don't know. But Dior Homme is just brilliant for going out. The ladies love it. It is... What a fragrance. What a fragrance Dior Homme Intense is. So, still available. Obviously, people, now there's like a newer one that the C and the D are not separated like this. It's a different sort of top. It says it right here instead of right here. People say this has better, this smells different. You know, the whole reformulation song and dance. But, I mean, my bottle of Dior Homme Intense, I can't speak to the newer bottles because I've never smelled them. But as far as like just sexy iris, it's hard to beat this if you're going out for a night on the town. So Dior Homme Intense. And finally, my number 1 fragrance. It's a very personal choice at number 1. So don't beat me up. It is what it is. I love this fragrance. It's one of my favorite creeds of all time. I ran through like 300 mils of this in my life so far. Okay. So I've used 300 mils. So having this 500 ml bottle scratches an itch because I just love it. I never want to be without it as long as I live. This is Creed's Royal Oud. I have so many memories with Royal Oud. So many memories. It's woody, it's spicy. It sort of gives you a little hint of Bois d'Orage or French Lover by Frederic Malle. The way the galbanum, the angelica kind of play with each other, but it's that angelica, galbanum, you know, spicy woodiness. Many people say that the Cedar wood is extremely amped up in here, and it is, but there's other things that play a role too. This is created by Julien Rasquinet, who is a Pierre Bourdon disciple, and you can definitely get, Pierre Bourdon's name is on the bottle of French Lover, or Bois d'Orage, depending on where you bought it. And so the fact that this has little hints of Pierre Bourdon in here, it's very special to me. Very, very special. I think Pierre Bourdon is one of the greatest perfumers of all time. And, one of his teachers is now one of his students is now learning from the teacher to do a Creed fragrance. It just comes full circle. There is just something, this is one of those Creed fragrances that is just for me. I mean, I love wearing it. It's so classy. You can wear it to work, no problems. I've worn the shit out of that to work over the years, and will continue to do so. So that's my number one fragrance for 2011. Again, that's just a personal choice. Obviously, there's more realistic Oud fragrances now that I have in the collection, but Royal Oud still will always have a special place in my heart. So hope you enjoyed this. We're an hour and 10 minutes of just fragrance palaver back and forth. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your favorites are. If there's any from 2011 I missed, obviously you can't have them all, but some of your favorites, do let me know. Appreciate everyone's support, watching, commenting, liking. All the stuff you all do for the channel is amazing, and I'm very grateful for it. So appreciate everyone. Cheers, guys, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.